Hey everybody, welcome back to the Turtle and the Tiger, vlog number 38, part 2 of the little episode of us ultimately going from Muller State Park all the way to our Weston Colorado house sit, one of our coolest house sits off the grid in Western Colorado, which is about 15 miles south of Trinidad, Colorado, the cannabis mecca of that part of the state. We left the Trinidad Lake State Park and got to our Weston Colorado house sit relatively early. The people there were nice enough to invite us a day early before the actual house sit started, and they had a base. We were going to have private living quarters for us and everything like that, so we wouldn't even know that they were there. They wouldn't know that we were there. But it was sort of an unassuming town. Weston, Colorado is sort of a very, very, very small town. I think the population of Weston itself is about 200. They do have a cute store called Ringo's, which surprisingly has a little butcher shop and some other things. Not the greatest produce in the world, but you know, milk, eggs, and butter, you know, and meat. So you know, if we needed something in a hurry, we could go there. We got to the house itself is in a ranch style community. If you haven't watched some of my videos, this seems to be a pretty common thing here, where they've taken a giant piece of property and diced it up into 30 to 40 acre lots. It might be 35 acres in this particular one. And you basically drive through a gate. It's a secure gate. You got to have a code. And then the road goes through this big ranch. It could be, you know, hundreds and hundreds of acres. There may or may not be a lot of houses in this particular house ranch situation. I don't think maybe even 5% of all of the lots were filled. The lots went for about $25,000 each, and usually were around 35 acres. Well, before you get yourself into a lather here about, well, geez, that's kind of cheap. Well, take into consideration what comes next when I get to tell you all the rest of it. Anyway, the road goes up through the canyon. It's a 2-mile road to their house. Again, this house is totally off the grid. They have no septic, town septic. They have no power, no power line comes into their house. They don't have a cable for their TV. They don't have a wire for telephone, no hardwired telephone. They don't have town water. So this is how the house is pretty much set up. As far as water is concerned, they don't even have a well, because there's no water to where they could drill. They couldn't find water if they tried, since they're higher up. People down in the valley can find a little water, but the water table is receding at such a rate that people that build in the valley are sort of skeptical about drilling a well. So he has two 1,500-gallon cisterns that he routinely fills from water from a water point in town. So he collects his own water in a 500-gallon PBA-free type tank that he straps into his landscape trailer, and he goes down and hauls it up. It's probably 8 miles. Because he can get his water himself, he pays about 2 cents a gallon on a debit card that he puts money into every so often. I call it a water card. He basically goes to the water point, goes up to the pump, puts a hose in the tank, slashes the card, starts the pump. The meter keeps track of his account and how much he's using. When it's full, we go back. You put the water out of the tank into the cistern. We did that, as a matter of fact, once the day he left, just so he could see the process. My truck would have been I could have easily taken his trailer with the Tiger, because I had the right hitch. It was the right height, everything. We didn't have to, but I did measure the water from time to time to make sure that our consumption wasn't, you know, getting to the point where we did need to go get water. At no time did we, you know, get even close to it, because like I said, we got the load the day before he left. He does have a regular septic system. However, from some of the bathrooms in the house, he has channeled his gray water to a gray water holding tank that's separate than the fresh water, obviously. gray water holding tank that also gets filled with a little of his rain, excuse me, little of his the rainwater from the roof collects into this cistern so that they can use it on their plants, not vegetables, just mostly flowers or whatever, because you can't count on rainfall there. So I had to measure that as well, because he had a little irrigation system set up, a sprinkler system on a timer. So if there wasn't enough rain to fill it, I was to take some of the fresh water and pump it into the gray water tank. Didn't have to do that, because as it turned out, we had rain a couple of days there, and one good rainfall brought up the cistern, the gray water cistern, about 6 or 7 inches. So there is actually a point, he says, when they have about 5 good rainstorms, his 500-gallon cistern gets overfilled, so they don't have to worry about it too much. We did do some hiking, but not a lot there. We mainly just took care of their dog, Trini, great dog. I believe it was a golden retriever, and took her for walks. She was very well behaved. She was a clown most of the time. She loved to go for rides. We were very fortunate that they let us use one of their vehicles to go into town to do errands and things of that nature. We kind of explored the surroundings a little bit, including all the derricks on the ranch. These derricks take methane. They're coal bed methane extraction derricks. Some landowners within that ranch system actually had them on their property. Some had the mineral rights to the methane. It's a whole different deal down here in terms of mineral rights. It's something we're not really involved with in New England at all. I do have a blog on it if you want to go down in the description and check out a link to the blog that I talk a little bit more about coal bed methane extraction and the number of derricks in the area. But just some quick statistics. There are about one derrick, methane extracting derrick per 40 acres in not just the town, but the county around Weston. And it seems to be growing a little bit. So if you're wondering where your propane's coming from, and why maybe the price has gone down in the last 10 years or stayed stable or whatever, at least in this part of the country, that's where it's coming from. I did talk to one of the maintenance guys at one of these derricks, where the gas company that owns them ultimately gets the gas from them, because it's very interesting in how it's extracted and how it's collected, etc. And we talked about fracking a little bit, and I'm not going to get into it here, but it's interesting to hear their side of fracking versus sometimes what you hear in the media, and what we tend to believe and versus what tends to be true. That said, one of the other issues that we ran into while we were at this house sit were the fire called the Spring Creek fire. Now, we were in Durango. If you didn't see that vlog, I'll put a link in here somewhere, probably up here in this corner, to the Durango house sit and the 416 fire that happened while we were there. Well, go figure. We're here in Weston, Colorado, in, I don't know, day 2. Go out on the deck, look over the Sangre de Cristo Mountains and the Spanish Peaks, and boof, here comes another wildfire. Granted, it was about 15-25 miles away, but man, you could see the plumes of smoke every night, and if the wind turned, you'd look out and the mountains would be all hazy, just like it is here. For the same reason, we're in Silverthorne right now, Silverthorne, Colorado. But it seems like wherever we turn in the state of Colorado, there's a wildfire somewhere. This particular wildfire at I believe it was Spring Creek, consumed somewhere in the neighborhood of, I think, 80 to 90,000 acres. At some point in time during our house sit, we got some rain, and it actually shut it down quite a bit, fortunately. But boy, we were nervous a couple of times. We'd be in this house sit, and the cracks of thunder, I don't know if it's just it was just the loudest thing I've ever heard of. And 60 years old, I mean, you'd think you'd hear some thunderstorms in your life, but there was nothing compared to the electrical storms that were out here. They were pretty intense. So what else can I say about this house? A gorgeous house. We had a great living space above the garage. We could have gone down to the master bedroom, but we fell in love with where we were at from the very beginning. They made us a nice dinner the day that we got there. We went around the house, checked off, you know, I went through the homeowner with the solar to make sure I understood how the solar worked and how the batteries got charged and how the generator would play a part if, you know, there was too much draw on the power. It was amazing how the setup was, and it makes me wonder, other than cost, why more people don't do it, even if they are close to the grid. He has got this dialed in so that you can just walk into it, and it otherwise looks like a normal house. Maybe some of the lights are 12 volt, but other than that, you can use your dishwasher, you can use your washing machine. They even have a constant current indoor pool that they've rigged up on a separate generator, but it works great. Television works fine. We had better internet reception from this off-grid house than I've had on probably 80% of the house sets and about 90% of the towns that I've tried to do uploads. So we got a lot of work done there with our blog and the YouTube. As a matter of fact, if I look back, most of the videos, the 34 up to maybe 36, 37, were pretty much all uploaded there. The other thing was that we didn't have a whole lot of food when we first went in there, so we did have to make a couple of trips downtown. Don't forget, we were there for 20 days. We were able to take advantage of a farmer's market in Trinidad, although it's farmer's market is sort of a misnomer, because out of the 18 vendors that were there, probably 2 or 3 were farmers. The rest was crafts, etc. So, but we got fresh eggs and some produce. The corn wasn't the greatest. I heard corn back in New England isn't the greatest right now either, because you guys got too much rain. So we did that. We took advantage of that. But all in all, it was just, you know, you could go out on the deck, and I swear this house had probably one of the best views I've ever seen, and I can only imagine what happens when it snows. It's absolutely just stunning to see these sunsets. And this house was set up very well, so even as the problem with us going there at that time, it was extraordinarily hot and uncharacteristically hot for that time of the year. So for the 20 days that we were there, most of those 20 days, it was usually over 90 and sometimes close to 100. But the house stayed very cool with no air conditioning. You manage the curtains and do your thing with the windows, and it stayed very cool. Slept real well. Beds were very comfortable. It was a very cool experience, and they've asked us to consider going back and doing the same thing if they ever leave in the future. So I guess we did a few things right when we wrapped things up after 21 days. Ironically, towards the end of the house sit, we weren't quite sure what we were doing. We were sort of planning on this whole New England thing, going back to New England, and lo and behold, at the end of the Weston house sit, the people in Rye that we house sat for in April asked us to come back, and wouldn't you know, the day they wanted us to start was the last day we were going to be in Weston. So that's going to be the subject of the next vlog, number 39, is us going back to Rye, Colorado for another week house sit at one of our favorite houses. So I hope you join us for that. So until next time, take care. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Check out our blog. Until next time, stay safe. Take care now. Bye-bye.